Good morning, everyone. It doesn't feel like autumn at all. It's a nice summer morning, and today I want to talk about some subjects. I haven't mentioned this before. It's only written on this corner sticker of the screen where I put the description of this kind of English videos about international affairs. It's called the Foreign Affairs. And today, before starting, just want to comment that I appreciate the comments of that everyone sent yesterday, supporting comments that were saying me to continue to do these videos. I will try to keep it up. That's all I can promise. I have to conjugate this with a lot of other affairs in life. Foreign affairs is like a hobby to me, and it's my exercise of free speech. Also, I had some comments about people were like asking, why do you do it in English? If you are Portuguese, you are in Portugal. Well, the simple reason for that is that because I can, because I feel like it. I have plenty of hours in my podcasts in Portuguese, interviews. We have Tanque de Ideias, which is a talk show where we discuss everything from local, national to international. And this one, I felt like doing it in English. Is one of the languages I speak. And I think it appeals to a wider range of audience. That's also another reason. But putting all that aside, I had good feedback from yesterday's video, so today I'm doing another one because I'm on my days off from work and I have time. When I get back to work, it's a different tune. I also had the first troll comment, and that was quite fun. And it's because this is a small community, people know me here, and of course the troll comment comes from my community, and I was saying something like, it's a shame that you show that you're using the images of this beautiful town and that I'm not representing the opinion of the people in concerning the affairs in Ukraine and blah blah blah. And I'm like, use some weird name for, like a stooge or something, if I can translate it, for a broken or empty ideology. You all know I'm communist, right? And this kind of thing. So I believe this monkey brain was somehow upset by these videos. We have a group of monkey brains like this around in this small community. Normally they are very proud of everything and ignorant of everything else. And this is the typical behavior. I don't mind, although some of these comments, because they immediately start offending, and I don't have to put up with it, especially I don't make any money on this, so if you don't like it, don't watch it. Putting all that aside, and because the introduction goes long now, and I believe some of you will get bored very easily. US Army veteran who's training Ukrainian soldiers told Insider that Ukrainian forces would be worse off if they followed the American battlefield doctrine, and they were actually better at understanding some types of modern fighting. yeah, this is not the first time I hear this. I have already interviewed several pro-Ukrainian people. One of them, it was completely anonymous. He didn't even want to say his age, let alone his name. But he has a YouTube channel called War in Ukraine, where the cover of the channel is generally a green map. So you can look it up. And I think you should, because I think the guy is actually quite good in giving information. You see, one of the things I am accused is of being, of course, pro-Russian. And this is a tendency I really dislike, because I am pro-peace, mostly, unless of I give up my stance of pro-peace when some trolls annoy me, and then I wouldn't be peaceful on them, of course. But the thing is, this is what the Western propaganda, this is the environment the Western propaganda created. A very similar sentiment created in the NAZI times, in you know where. And so this is one of the things I've hate in this part of the world, is that people buy into this propaganda very, very easily, and then they feel like entitled to offend others that do not share their point of view. And yeah, so, but this is of course, this is the insider. It's I try to dig my sources mostly in Western communication, because it's easier to make my point when criticizing the West. You have always, don't forget this, always to look both narratives. Because I'm not saying the Russians are saints. That's not at all the point. Not at all. Every war should be condemned. Every aggression should be condemned. But let's be clear. Let's not be hypocrites. Wars have been ever since. And lately, if we just go back, not long, but 20th century, there are many wars. And there are many wars aside from the war of Ukraine, and many conflicts, and many oppression, and many occupation. And people do not seem to care about it. And suddenly comes the golden child, the conflict in Ukraine. Yeah, and this discrepancy, this cognitive dissonance I see in this kind of people, I have to admit, it messes with my nerves a little bit. So yeah, I don't have much patience for this kind of people. At least if they were coherent, we would be on the same channel. Okay, but continue. So this is, I'm sorry, start rambling again. It's a lovely morning. And so, continuing, this guy was telling the insider that something that some other soldier interviewed before had already told, that if he followed strictly NATO doctrine, he would be dead by now. We all hear about NATO standards this, NATO standards that. This is a NATO standardized army. It's according to NATO standards, but I don't know what NATO standards is, because this soldier admits, for example, that the Polish army is much different than the American army. They're both NATO. And I believe they're also different from the Turkish army, which is also NATO. By the way, the Portuguese army is also NATO, although I know some of you will at least, this will produce a smile in some of you, because the Portuguese army has not much relevance. We all know when we send the Leopards, our Leopards were like 2 pieces of junk that that didn't even work, were not in operation conditions. Look at this beautiful Atlantic coast. And yeah, and so I think, of course, the Ukrainians, they are very resilient people. They are very ingenious. They have to make a lot with little. And on top of that, they are victim of Western policy. Because, you know, this counteroffensive has been killing dozens of thousands of Ukrainians. And many of that, we've seen the opening of the counteroffensive, where they knew that the Russians were prepared. But still, they sent columns of sitting ducks to the slaughter. I mean, who in their right mind, especially professional generals, would agree with that tactic, knowing that there were minefields, there were artillery observers, there was a lot of prepared artillery and other kinds of, and drones and everything else and whatnot. And so they just sent them to the slaughter, and they keep doing it that. And it's up to the Ukrainians to make shift and to make the best what they can on the battlefield, and they are quite good at it. Quite good. Just remember that Ukrainians and Russians have been for a long time in the same army. They share the same thinking. This is not something that goes away even with the heavy indoctrination that the US promoted in Ukraine. And so, yeah, I think it's not NATO that is teaching the Ukrainians to fight, it's the other way around. For example, let me move on to something else. Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. So now, you know, I've talked to this in a previous video. So both Azerbaijan and Armenia had good relations with both the Russians and part of the West. I'm not going to say all the West or all NATO, because, you know, Turkey and Armenia, I don't think they'll ever get along due to their history and all that. But now that, I mean, and the conflict has been as I just go and look up the history, or go and look up my last video about that. I mentioned the history. So it's decades of conflict, and suddenly someone pulls Armenians' rug under their feet, and Armenia is forced to give up Nagorno-Karabakh. Recall that Nagorno-Karabakh is an Armenian majority ethnicity region. And so now suddenly, of course, we all know that the President Pashinyan from Armenia, we all know the path that he took. And we all know the support that he had in reaching power. And somehow, well, I'm not saying fooling, but trying to get along with the Russians at the same time. Azerbaijan, on the other hand, just remember Von der Crazy. No, I don't want to say Von der Crazy. I'm sorry. This is Alex's Christopher's line. Okay, so von der Leyen, in my opinion, a bad prototype of the reincarnation of evil on Earth. This is how I would describe her. She was like praising our Azerbaijan for, remember, like a month ago, when the biggest objective was to cut off and cut the dependence from the Russian oil and Russian gas, sorry. And they were turning to Armenia to supply, to be one of the majors, to become one of the major European suppliers, and Armenia this, Armenia that. I'm sorry, I'm saying Armenia, I mean Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan was the best solution to all evils, but that once again, now the best was transformed in the beast, and now because of the capitulation of Nagorno-Karabakh to Azerbaijan, the West is disliking Armenia. At least this is what it says in an article in The Guardian. What to say of this? They even start to talk about sanctions. Of course, this is very mild conversation. They cannot just go around and sanction every energy producer. We know the effects of this. We know who pays afterwards. It's me and you. It's the working class. But they are like concerned that their long-time ally, because Azerbaijan is it's a curious case. It's ally both to the West and to Russia. Of course, we all know that in this region it's very hard access to NATO, to create a state like, for example, Ukraine, a proxy state like Ukraine. So all the players that locate geographically there, they have to go along with Russia somehow. And it's only natural that they do. So yeah, this is another episode of the West's cards dealings, and I don't really. I tell you my take. I don't really believe that they're gonna sanction Azerbaijan heavily or not. Now if they're gonna do that, they are in the phase of twisting the narrative, because Azerbaijan was good, and now they have to turn it into bad. Also, it's like in everyone's face, the double standards, that they are so outraged by an invasion of one country, and then they take lightly the invasion of another. Although bear in mind that Nagorno-Karabakh is not recognized as an independent country. This is also an important aspect. So I think they are more like pretending to be outraged. Of course, unless they suspect that the Azerbaijanis are dealing with the Russians. That's also one of the accusations. I really don't know. I would have to dig in more. I know that Russia has been maintaining the peace there, and if it weren't for them, it would be much bloodier. Also, at the same time, the capitulation avoided a huge bloodshed. The Azerbaijan president has already promised that it would respect the rights of Armenians, that would integrate them peacefully. We all hope that is true. I want to show you something. I don't know if you can see all these broken shells from different kind of sea creatures. This is, I cannot name the era where this is from. This is prehistoric. It's from people that lived here and used this place to come and eat. It's called the concheiro. I won't go into much details because I'm really not an expert, but it's a very old. It's too bad it's not preserved. It's just laying here to erosion, and people pass by it. They don't even notice it. There are, for example, specimens of shells here that do not exist anymore. So that's one of the proof. Anyway, Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say for today. Sorry I took too long in the beginning, but and I don't want to lose too much or dedicate too much of my mind to trolls. I really don't consider their opinion relevant for anything other than destroying and spewing up venom. Normally, this kind of people, they are the the no doers. They don't do anything positive. They just like to, troll. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. I felt like I rambled too much. I even put my other phone where I have my notes on the pocket, so I just went rambling on. I hope you like it. Let me know again in the comments below. I will leave the link to the articles that I've read to talk about stuff today, and follow this channel. I will soon do other videos. Don't run away if you see videos in Portuguese. This is a broad channel. It's not dedicated exclusively to geopolitics, and so yeah, you can see a lot of things here, from local to international. All the world fits in this channel. Thank you very much.